I would like to explain the 10 Kumi Jo. O-Sensei bequeathed to us the 31-movement kata and many other Jo movements. However, I did not learn complete Kumi Jo practices. He would teach me partial movements from time to time. I combined them into Kumi Jo for demonstration purposes. I devised 7 Kumi Jo. Then, in 1983, I received the Budo Johosho Award, and I had to give a demonstration at the Budokan. Therefore, I devised an additional 3 Kumi Jo, 8, 9, and 10, and thus there are now a total of 10 Kumi Jo. I will explain the first Kumi Jo. I thrust at him with Kaishitsuki from the left. He parries my Jo and then comes to attack me again. I receive his Jo and then attack him with Hayagaeshi. He receives my Jo stepping backwards. At this point, if he receives my Jo from the wrong angle, he will injure his hand. Now, a wrong example, my Jo slips down. If he withdraws one large step to the rear with his left leg, this too is dangerous. Unless he draws one step back and receives the Jo at a right angle, he will get injured. Now, if I don't turn my body fast enough, he can attack my elbow. When I raise my Jo, my feet must move at the same time. Then I strike his head. If your left leg doesn't move fast enough, you could receive a serious injury, so please be careful. I'll do it again. This posture. Note the position of this leg. I'll explain. In this case, he should aim at the neck. However, since it is dangerous to do so, he should aim at a little below the neck. This is important in order to avoid injury. I parry. I parry his thrust, drawing one step diagonally to the rear. Then I thrust at his chest, stepping forward with my right leg. He now comes to attack my leg. I receive his Jo by twisting my body. He comes to execute a thrust. I step to the left and thrust at his side. I'll do it again. I'll explain the third Kumi Jo. He comes to attack with the Gedan Uchi. I hold my Jo with my right hand and step off one step to receive his Jo. He comes to attack my side. I twist my body and change my hand to hold the Jo with the right hand and strike his Jo down. I attack his side. He receives this. I do not resist his Jo, but execute Nidansuki from below. The fourth Kumi Jo. I will explain the fourth Kumi Jo. I dodge his chokuzuki, taking a large step to the rear. There is too much distance between us to execute Kaishi Uchi. Therefore, I execute To Mauchi, passing over the shoulder. He will step back to avoid my attack. You should take a large step back so as to avoid injury at this point. Even if my jo reaches him, he should assume a defensive stance with his jo. My jo flows in this manner. At this point, you should hold the jo, placing your hand facing downward. If you place your hand above the jo when you receive his attack, you will injure yourself. Please be very careful. He comes to thrust at me. I take a large step to the left to attack him. Here, the position of the left leg is important. If you don't move your left leg sufficiently, you'll end up in this stance. If you take a large step with your left foot here, like this, you'll be sufficiently far enough away. I will explain the fifth Kumi Jo. He comes to thrust me. I parry his jo and return a thrust. He withdraws diagonally to the right and assumes a Katate Gedan Gaeshi stance. He attacks me with a Katate Gedan Gaeshi. I take a large step backward with my left foot, assuming this stance. At this point, his way of finishing the Gedan Kaeshi Uchi with his left hand is important. His hand should face upward like this. Then he attacks my head. I change my foot position to assume a correct stance, and I parry his jo with this counter movement. Then I thrust at him.